back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Presented by the Choctaw Casino and Resort in Durant. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
It is madness here in the Sooner Scoop studios. That's right. We've had some technical issues on the website that we're dealing with because there's just been a new commitment for the Sooners. We've been sitting here. We're delayed probably like 20 minutes from the start of the podcast because the Sooners have had a huge commitment. All hands were on deck to release it to the world. We also have a first. Lincoln Riley has retweeted a commitment video with the word titties in it. Here to tell us all the latest is Josh McQuistion.
He retweeted that?
He retweeted that, yeah.
Well, I just want to first off say congratulations to titties. That's a big moment.
Slip titties in there.
Yep, just snuck it
right
right
who that
past Lincoln.
Rap artist was. I know it's not rap anyway, so.
I don't know who all's listened to it out there, but I was enjoying it.
Wasn't bad.
Yeah. No, I
so
mean,
who's the commitment, Josh? Yes.
Yeah. We're talking
We're
about
all
Perrion
distracted when
Winfrey.
titties come up. I'm sorry. Should have warned you.
That's just true. Iowa Western defensive tackle Perrion Winfrey, a guy that Oklahoma offered early on. Really, his offer list really exploded through the spring, but Oklahoma was really one of his first big ones, kind of ahead of Florida State, Alabama. I mean, you're talking about a guy that really, if he'd wanted to stay in the process for a while, would have had some very serious options. Very long, athletic guy. Really, I mean, you know, we've talked a lot on the pod about guys fitting a mold and fitting what they're wanting. This is almost their perfect interior offensive lineman. Tremendous length. I mean, this is a guy that, you know, to use a cliche you hear, you know, coaches say sometimes, kind of guy that can scratch his knees without bending over. Very long arm, very long legged. He's listed at about 300 pounds. If that's true, it's amazing. I mean, because on tape, he looks like a flat bellied, like he's very, very athletic, shoots gaps. He wants to get upfield, create pass. You know, he's going to be a pass rusher first. Is better against the run than I think some people might realize. He's very strong. And I think he's pretty advanced. I mean, Iowa Western's a very good program in the junior college ranks, well coached. A lot of their guys come out and seem ready to make an impact. So this is a big one for Oklahoma. This is a guy that can come in. He comes in December. He's a 3-for-2 guy, which, you know, for those that don't follow it real closely, that means he has 3 years of eligibility and 2 years to play. So if he's not ready next year and Oklahoma feels okay, they can redshirt him if they want to. I don't think that's what's going to happen, and I definitely don't think that's the plan for either him or Oklahoma. This is an impact guy that I think when Rivals gets around to doing their JUCO rankings, this is a fairly high 4-star kind of commitment. This is a big deal for OU.
I've talked to Bob about this off air as far as, and Bob, you can reiterate what you told me, as far as this is the type of commitment that Oklahoma has been looking for, is it not, defensively, just from a perspective of they haven't been getting very many of these guys, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, lately the eyes have been going out like crazy, but it's been on offense.
Yeah.
And as much as you're excited about that, there's been some gripes. Where's the defense? You know, I don't need another receiver. I don't need another running back.
Do you think that the, let's say, the bitchiness over the lack of known eyeballs also has to do with the fact that there haven't been a defensive guy like this?
Yes.
Like, it's a malaise of bitchiness.
They want a plan A, you know, the number one target at your respective position.
Which, by the way, Ryan Watts just went to a 4-star, so calm down.
Yeah, I mean, Watts and Manning were big pickups, but that feels like ages ago. That was Easter Sunday was when Watts. So you've gone more than a month of sort of
Burns, you know, switching kind of.
Yeah, you're just sort of waiting for something. You're seeing the eyes, and then you're like, no, that's going to be offense. That's Seth McGowan. That's Brian Darby. Like, wait a minute. When are they going to start getting guys on defense? And guys that I can be excited about. Not just, he's at OU. That's kind of cool. Winfrey is that guy. He's that guy that shows that even though it's going to take a while to get this defense at a standard that everyone's going to be happy with, he's the type of guy that gets you into that first spot in terms of trying to reach that potential once again.
All right, just stop the presses. Was this your headline, Bob? Because this looks suspiciously like a Bob.
No,
or like a Josh
I
McCuistion
went
headline.
more difference maker. That's a nice one, though.
Josh.
A big Winfrey.
I love it. I almost left out 4 Sooners, a big Winfrey Sooners. Like, I almost went there, but I was like, that's too bad. That's just awful.
A big win-free for Sooners.
You guys know I love a name game. I really do.
Major Birds would have been perfect. We got screwed out of that.
So, you know,
What was your headline?
Bob brings up a really...
You had to have something saved up for that.
You know, I really had brainstormed it probably like 6 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
And then when it became clear that it was going to be LSU, I was like, well, screw him, man. He gets no more of my title time. He'll enjoy nothing.
Well, I mean, but that's a first we haven't talked about too. The first eyeballs that Lincoln
legitimate.
Riley got screwed on.
Not Ruben Unajay, who OU decided after
They backed out on.
They backed out.
Yeah.
This was the guy they were still going to take, and I think that hurt too.
Unajay end up at Illinois,
And he's gone. He's gone from
God.
Illini. I'm not sure where he is now. I know he entered the portal.
But anyway, yeah. So
Yeah.
we've got 2 firsts. We've got
Yes.
Lincoln sent out eyeball emojis, and he got burnt, and he retweeted a guy with titties in his video.
Which
The
one's
word
bigger?
titties.
Which one's a bigger deal?
Oh,
here?
it's definitely Burns. I mean, his crystal ball percentage is now, or his forecast percentage. Sorry, rivals. Sorry, rivals. I might have to bleep that. His fan forecast percentage is on the ropes all of a sudden. Can you trust Lincoln Riley's eyeballs moving forward? I've been hurt
that
before.
was in my Twitter mentions like crazy. Yes.
Well, you can certainly trust Josh, who's clicking it now above 85% on his forecast. Just heads up, anybody out there?
You're taking I like that you're taking this. I really almost made my first fan forecast the other day.
Oh, I'm ready. We gotta pick the right guy for you, Kerry.
I don't know if I need to go down that rabbit hole, man.
I'm competitive in literally everything, so this is just right up my alley. If I can tell people I'm better.
I can't even really say who I was going to forecast, can I? Because that'll give stuff away.
Yeah, you don't want to go down that road.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
That's the
now people are going to be watching
Carrie's
you.
first forecast is,
Bryce Young.
if it's like,
Holy shit.
I mean, do I use it just to screw with people? Do I,
If you
put,
don't care about your
Brock
ranking.
Vandagriff to like Florida, just or something,
If,
just
if
to
you
piss
don't
people
care
off?
about your percentage and your ranking.
How amazing would that be if Kerry's entire future cast was just throwing people off the scent? Like he literally, he went out of his way to pick every guy wrong.
I'm giving that some serious thought now.
That would be amazing.
By the way, what would you say if you had to rank the order? Okay, Brock Vandagriff comes in this weekend, works out with Lincoln Riley. He's going to be at the Rivals 5-star camp. We're going to see him there again. 2 questions, Josh. Percentage chance that Brock Vandagriff is already committed when he lands in Atlanta. Let's start there.
That's a really good one. I would say
This will not count on your forecast.
it won't. Yeah, I wanted to make sure now that we've got that out there so everybody can know. I would say about 60%. I think there's a chance. I really do. There's a couple of interesting variables. Like you mentioned the camp itself. Would he like to do that where he can, kind of be around a bunch of press, knock out all the interviews he's got to do, and then he just gets to go home and relax while all the other networks try and, talk to him. I guess it's not as relaxing as I think it would be, but at least he gets one network knocked out and we leave him alone. Chad Simmons leaves him alone. Everybody's happy. The other interesting thing is, and I don't want to give away too much, but Rivals' first 2021 rankings are going to be out next week. I think everybody's been pretty clear reading what I've been saying. I mean, of the young quarterbacks I've seen at a similar stage, the only guy that I would say I would clearly have him at least a little ahead of Brock is Trevor Lawrence. And we've talked about him on the pod. Trevor Lawrence is the best high school quarterback I've ever seen. So that tells you, I think the world of Brock Vandagriff, and from the people I'm talking to, I think Rivals has a pretty similar feeling. So he's going to be pretty high up the food chain.
He's got a great arm, Eddie.
Yeah, Carrie. I was just going to say, Carrie and I saw him throw on.
I'm the only one that hasn't now.
You weren't there, Bob.
But I'm not going to be there in Atlanta.
It sounds. We'll just
Stop
have to,
having babies.
We'll just have to tell you that. Stop having sex. Well,
so from now on, can we just mute Bob when the Brock Vandagriff stuff comes up? Just take him out.
It's so cliche.
It's just like what's the there? He's muted.
It's so cliche to say it, but the ball just comes out of his hand differently. I mean, it from the guys that were there, and there was a kid that got offered, a 2022 kid, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Brock Vandagriff, you look at the quarterbacks that were at Riley's camp, and obviously when a guy is basically getting a private instruction lesson from Jalen Hurts, you kind of know who it is.
They didn't even show up at the camp with everybody else. They were off.
They were doing their own thing.
Probably hanging out at the lockers.
Yeah, it was a recruiting visit basically, but he's bending the rules. I mean, I'm sure that's allowable. That's why you get them on campus.
Maybe they were in the hot tub together with chicks. Maybe.
Yeah, hopefully.
Not together.
# pause. It's different though. I mean, it's what you saw in Atlanta at the RCS, Josh. I mean, it was the first couple clips that you put up on the server. It's like, this kid's different than everybody else. He's really damn good.
Well, and there's no way that you would have been just watching him at camp. You would have said it's a 2020 guy. There's no way you would have thought it was a 2021. I mean, he's big. He's bigger than everybody else. He's legitimately 6'3", which he's listed, I think, our Rivals database has him at 6'3", but he's just as tall as Jalen Hurts is. So he's got legit height. Here's the question, too, and I'll, around the horn, I'll take Bob off of mute. So you mentioned Trevor Lawrence. That is maybe my biggest regret is that I shit all over Trevor Lawrence forever, saying that Justin Fields was definitely my guy.
Well, he is a 2021. By the way.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't have guessed he was 22.
You would have thought he was 2020.
You would have thought he was getting ready to be a senior.
I got you. Sorry.
Yeah. Just big.
Carry on.
Arm. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's that guy, number one guy, goes to college, is everything that he's cracked up to be. Like, that doesn't really happen at Oklahoma. Like, we haven't seen that happen. Go all the way back. I mean, Rhett Bomar was supposed to be that guy, and he screwed it up on his own.
Oh, yeah.
But, Jason White is probably the closest you get, but other than having a Miami offer, it's not like, Josh, he was just tearing the world apart. And he had a Miami offer because of Larry Coker's brother or uncle or whatever was the principal at Tuttle.
Yeah, it had something to do. I've always heard a story like that. I forget what
it was his
particulars were.
But
it would be on the hill. It would be on the hills of. It would be the two best recruiting classes as far as quarterbacks go. I guess not back to back, but in the last 3 years that Oklahoma's ever had.
And let me qualify. I mean, you can say Kyler Murray.
Put Rattler in there.
He was one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He played 1 year and he's a transfer. I'm talking about kids that
him and Baker don't count
out of high school that are considered either the top quarterback or one of the top quarterbacks that come to Oklahoma and have a great career, lead a team to a college football playoff, win a Heisman Trophy. I mean, like, we haven't seen that story play out at Oklahoma, and that's what having two back-to-back Heisman Trophy winners makes you think is possible with Vandagriff.
If you had Rattler and Brock, what do you do for the 2020 class? Do you seriously consider not taking one because that guy would believe in his heart he's never going to see the field?
I think you have to.
You don't even want him?
I think you have to.
But
even
how?
if it's somebody, just a warm body,
yeah.
like a Tanner Schaefer, somebody that you kind of like from a Canadian.
Sam Bradford.
Well, he won a Heisman Trophy.
I'm just saying as a high school recruit.
I mean, that's kind of what they did, though. Did they not? Because they knew that they had Rhett coming in 2005.
Thank God Sam Bradford came.
No shit. Thank God for Kent and Martha.
Yes.
Giving us Sam. And thank God for me. For keeping him alive.
For raising him.
Basically.
keeping him
I don't get
in
enough credit.
trouble, but out of trouble.
No, I kept him out of trouble. He was our DD, so it kind of worked out for everybody. He wasn't the one drinking.
Eddie, were you like his example? Like, just don't do what Eddie does. If you don't do what Eddie does, Sam, you'll probably be fine.
I've never thought about it like that, but there probably was referenced in the Bradford household every once in a while.
I've seen you around Kent before, and Kent loves you. Like, I don't
Oh,
think,
yeah.
does
No,
you
I
think
love
Martha
them.
hates you?
No, not at all. I
Okay.
saw Martha a couple weeks ago.
Okay. So you were always good with his parents.
Oh, yeah. I was good with
It
everybody's
was
parents.
never, Eddie's a bad apple, stay away from that kid.
No, I had everybody fooled.
He admits it now.
I was like, what's his name? Eddie. Eddie Haskell.
Eddie Haskell,
Yeah.
I can see
Eddie
that.
is literally, every group of friends has that guy that every parent loves, and every group, like every other guy in the group is like, you should f***ing hate him. He's a problem. Like, you don't even know. And like, they dislike the guy who has like the fast car, or he talks too loud, or has some stupid other thing that bothers parents. But Eddie's funny, and he can be polite when he wants to be.
But
so
he's
all the
also-
parents like, Eddie's great.
He's
but
also
don't
who they go
realize.
to for the cocaine. So
Exactly. Well, I mean, that
wouldn't-
could also
you
be
wouldn't-
why he got in with some North
You
families.
wouldn't go to me for the cocaine, but I could probably get you the cocaine. How about that?
Eddie's not dealing.
Yeah, I'm
it,
not
but he
the
is a
dealer.
distributor. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
We've said it on the pod before, Josh. Wasn't it the West kids made it, the PC kids sold it, and the North kids did it?
That's about right.
Isn't that what
That's
it was? Something like
yeah,
that?
because when I think of like the groups of people I knew, it was generally, don't hopefully no lawsuits from the private school region here. Some of the private schools over in the Western area would run around with the North group, some to my knowledge, and then there was some of that action going on.
So back to the original point. Does Lincoln Riley take a 2020 quarterback? I am of the opinion, yes. No matter what, he needs to take a kid.
I'll be shocked if he doesn't. And I think there's a couple of ways, you can go with that. They can go with a JUCO guy and say, maybe a guy that kind of eyes himself as a coach somewhere down the line, or, like, obviously you're probably not going to play here sandwich between Brock and Rattler. I mean, two of the better high school quarterbacks in the last 5 years.
Or if you're a JUCO guy and you're mature, you can say, look, we're going to have Jalen. We don't know if Spencer's going to be ready to start as a redshirt freshman. We might need somebody.
In today's climate, can you just say, we're not going to take a kid in December, but we're not going to take a high school kid, but we will be very active in the transfer process?
Exactly. That's
like,
the
could
other
you
option.
just be up front and say, we're not taking a high school kid, but we will be taking a quarterback?
You're not
I thought
guaranteed
it was,
you're going to get somebody that's going to be eligible, though,
yeah,
when you
sure.
need them.
And I thought it was. Did you guys read the Athletic article, the Austin Kendall, Max Olson piece yesterday?
I started reading it. I read about halfway through it. I didn't.
You never
finish.
know how much of like truth is in there, especially from the Austin Kendall side, specifically his father. But I thought it was interesting that Riley had mentioned to them that, if they didn't get Jalen Hurts, they were going to still take a quarterback, and they had looked at some JUCO kids because they want, and that's what he says Riley told him, is that they wanted the, I guess what Riley has always said when Jalen Hurts' name came up, they wanted the senior leadership or whatever that BS line that you throw out there is. But it would have been interesting if they wouldn't have gotten Hurts, which way they would have gone. Would they have gone for a JUCO, like the next great snow college JUCO quarterback? Or, I mean, which way would they have gone?
When it first came out there and like, would OU be interested in Jalen Hurts? I wasn't sure because they weren't interested in the Clemson kid, Kelly, what's his name? Bryant. They weren't interested in him, but we've seen him play. We knew he couldn't throw the ball very well. I just didn't. Maybe after seeing him in the Georgia game, Lincoln was sold on him. But I would say leading up to this year, I wouldn't have said that Jalen Hurts was an OU system type of guy.
I thought Justin Fields was going to be the one they were going to make the charge for.
I did too. I wonder how much Fields would have affected Rattler, and I wonder if that had a role. Because Fields was so young that does that shake Spencer up a little bit? Does that cause a problem when Rattler's the guy we want to build, around in the future for that particular group? I
don't think there's any doubt that that's the question that you asked yourselves. And it made a lot more sense when the dust settled and we all sat around and were talking about it. Because it was 6 days before the Hurts thing became real that I was still shitting on it, the idea of even going after him.
I think we podded. We had a pod. We all kind of shit on it. And like immediately after the pod, I think I learned or somebody told me that he was planning on a visit to
I think
OU.
that's about right.
Or something about
that he was going to be on campus.
Found out that his father had reached out to OU and they and Maryland were the two leaders.
Yeah, it was right before that weekend because we potted, I think, on a Wednesday, and then he went to Miami on Thursday.
It was Maryland Friday, OU Saturday, Miami
Sunday. That's right. That's right. And then he was the picture of him eating
Prime 112.
Yes, Prime 112 on Sunday night.
They're never going to lose a guy when you get him to Prime 112.
Well, the thing that led more, that you could believe it, where academics were getting involved. Like they were looking at that side of things too. And like, wait a minute, you don't do that unless you're really serious. So yeah, things changed really quickly in that 1 week period.
Do you want some strange, I guess, official OU university news?
Sure.
That just broke?
Yeah.
From a PR statement from the Board of Regents, David Boren has relinquished his affiliation with the University of Oklahoma and no longer has any relationship going forward with OU as a result of his resignation. The Board of Regents says this concludes the Title IX issue between Boren and OU.
They're going to take his statue down.
Does he have a statue?
Yeah.
Where?
It's
really?
Yeah, he's got a statue. They that was one of the last things they did before he retired. Was he had a statue ceremony?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Wasn't that the thing that he had the whole problem at?
No, that was Stoops. You know what he should have done?
Oh,
You know
that's
what
right,
Bob
that's
should have
right,
done? He
that's
should have gone to that one and acted like he was having a heart attack and ruined his ceremony. Talk about the ultimate gotcha.
So basically, David Boren, they're making it like he was never the president of OU. Wow.
Yes. I mean, is this the equivalent of, is this the academic equivalent of giving back wins?
Yeah, like taking down
He's
banners.
vacated. Yeah, he has been vacated as president. Well, I tell you, this is interesting because we know that there has been a rift between donors and the university and all of this stuff. So does this make everybody say, like, well, if he did that, he's in the wrong? Like, obviously, if he did that, it makes you believe he knows he did something bad. But I would assume that civil suits will come out of this. Because that one dude's dad's a lawyer that started this whole thing.
Start the clock.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Don't you think?
Start the clock? Mm-hmm. For his death?
You said it. I didn't. But just start the clock.
Wow. That was...
Start the clock.
That was puppeteering 101 from Eddie right there. Nicely done.
Well, I was trying to figure out where you were going with that. I mean, look, his health is not good. It's not going to take much. That is, yeah.
You would think.
No, that's one of those
You would think all
situations.
this.
Yeah, that's one of those situations where I won't be shocked to hear any news on his health status moving forward.
What is it when you have to give the wins back? What's the actual...
vacated.
Vacate, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, carry on. Sorry. I just saw that come across and figured it was timely.
No, that's very interesting.
Where were we at? We got on to North Cocaine.
Why is that
I don't know
your
if we can
stop
unravel
point?
all that.
Well,
That's
it was
one of the last things I remember. We were talking about.
We were still talking 2020
play.
quarterbacks,
Yeah.
and I just think you have to plan. If you're Lincoln Riley, you have to plan moving forward that Tanner Mordecai is going to transfer.
I think that I'll never, and I mean, it may work out fine. It may be okay. You know, going back to what we were talking about earlier, Sam Bradford made it okay what they did in 2005 after Bomar when they didn't take a quarterback in that class. And that's the only year since Bob Stoops arrived that they didn't take a quarterback at Oklahoma and really got, like I said, got bailed out because Sam was so much more than they thought he was when they went after him.
The landscape has changed so much.
Yes.
Yeah, but they were still doing it. I mean, it was like you go through those Drew Allen, Hunter Wall. I mean, like they had all these Tommy Grady. Like they had all these really highly recruited guys. But they were taking them one every year, and it was just there was a fallout because Landry got the job and he kept it, and Sam got the job and he kept it, and it just kind of goes that way.
It's kind of interesting when you look at it, just as far as, and this is probably the homer thing to say, but it seems like it happens more times than not at Oklahoma that a highly ranked kid comes in, and really, I mean, you can count on one hand the 5-stars or highly ranked kids that actually performed, couldn't you? Like, I mean, Joe Mixon's probably AD, Joe Mixon, Gerald. Who else would be the highly ranked type that actually came to Oklahoma and lived up to that billing. I
Well,
guess.
Tommy Harris, Adrian Peterson.
Sure, Tommy Harris was definitely one of them.
Man, I mean,
Depends on what you want to take out. Like Lance Mitchell should have been one of those guys, but when he blew out his knee, he was never the same again.
Yeah. Well, it's tough. I mean, you could probably
some of
sit
it's
around and look at
beyond-
all the other people and say, yeah, that it's come to that, you know.
I mean, but you've had your Chijoke Onyenagetches that have just been okay. That were,
Pasha was just okay.
Posh was just okay. Pasha is a medical doctor, though, via Cuba.
That doesn't.
Pasha
Former
Jackson
Sooner
is?
Scoop
Oh,
employee.
yeah. No,
Really?
I had to look this up because we were talking about the Warriors doctors the other day, and I questioned whether they're from Cuba or not. And people didn't know that you could get a medical license in Cuba. And
It's like
said,
getting
well,
a
Pasha
marriage
Jackson
license
did
in
it.
Bethany. Like you just have to do some paperwork and you're good.
Bethany in Cuba?
No, I'm just saying, like, is a Cuba
Bethany.
medical license lesser than other places?
I think it's just easier and cheaper.
No.
I mean, he's an MD. I looked him up. But, no, I mean, look, Paul Thompson was a stopgap for a year. Blake Bell was kind of a stopgap a little bit. But,
Blake Bell was out of a necessity.
yeah.
Because they couldn't.
I think Paul is a perfect example. That to me, I like that option more than the JUCO route. Go after a guy that is a good athlete and give, like he can have his shot at quarterback. He can go out there. And then after, a semester or two, when he sees, okay, I'm not Rattler or Mordecai is way ahead of me, whatever. Okay, man, would you be interested in playing some corner, some receiver? Maybe he's your next Lane Johnson. He's going to grow into a left tackle. I mean, it's not likely, but a guy that has another option to do something else. And that way you get your quarterback, you have your guy that can help you through practices or, while other guys are being recruited. And then once you get some more bodies on campus, you can say, okay, you're a good enough athlete to help us somewhere else. Do you want to give that a try?
Now, I think Lane Johnson went to junior college as a quarterback, but then became a tight end, and then was a tight end at Oklahoma, was moved to defensive end, moved back to tight end, and then to offensive line. I don't know that that's the kind of guy you're targeting.
No, I mean, no. It's not realistic you're going to find that guy because there's a reason Lane Johnson's just a freak. I mean, guys like that don't come around very often. Go ahead, Bob.
And the reason we keep bringing this up is they had Brock on campus last weekend, and we've still seen zero movement in 2020. No new offers, no new names. And that's why the speculation just keeps coming. What are they thinking in the grand scheme of things of what they're going to do for this one class?
Do you think there's any way that Lincoln's just going to leave it open just to see what happens at USC too, maybe? Maybe they get back in on the Bryce Young sweepstakes?
I do. And then that would be if you ended up getting Vandagriff and then Young and Rattler. There's no way all three would stay, but that's what
That
that's
assures
sort of
you
what,
that you're going to have one great quarterback.
Yeah, that's
out
sort
of
of what
those three.
Georgia did, right? With Eason, Fromm, and Fields.
Yeah.
You're guaranteed one of them is going to be your star.
And what's funny is if you'd have asked anybody, I think Fromm's the one they would have bet would have had to leave.
Yep.
And
Definitely.
he's the one that won the job. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, some of this stuff, everybody just kind of assumes. I think people are writing off Mordecai too soon. Don't get me wrong. He's not my bet, but I think he's a better player than some people think he is.
I think he's a good player, but I wonder, can Lincoln, convince him? And I think maybe he does it by giving him most of the number 2 reps through fall camp when it starts and just telling Spencer, like, hey, you're here to learn. But, I mean, are you really going to be able to tell Spencer Rattler you're not really competing for the starting job?
Or when Rattler gets out there, if he's that much better
Yeah.
that everyone believes he can be, it's just going to
If
show.
Mordecai sees him after a week of practice, like, holy shit, I
Can't throw the ball 80 yards in the air behind my back. Like, shit.
I mean, it's not an enviable position for Lincoln Riley. That's tough to manage.
It's almost like
that.
he just has to manage not egos, but like
No,
the
it
spots.
is. It's ego.
Is it egos?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, it's ego.
It's crazy.
Feelings, ego.
Parents.
Yeah, parents.
I'd have to think though, going through like what he has over the last 4 years, I guess, or 2 years more specifically. Like he has a pretty good handle on managing those types of, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why, Lincoln Riley is because he can do that, right? I mean,
he's good at the people.
He's managed
part,
Baker, he's managed Kyler, he put up with Kevin Murray, and I say put up with him, but
he made Heisman winners out of two guys,
sure,
whose fathers were known as being notorious meddlers,
right?
Before they got to Oklahoma.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like he has gone through the ringer, if you will.
Like Baker didn't even go to TCU, and Gary Patterson hates his dad. I mean, that's
so good.
That takes some talent, man.
So good.
And
Gary Patterson didn't even do an in-home. Like there's no real contact.
No reason he should know James's name.
That is
Just
too
trolling
good.
him.
Like that was like at Big 12 media days. Like Gary Patterson just decides I'm going to go off on Baker Mayfield's dad. It was glorious. So yeah,
That's
Lincoln
all
Riley,
we have to live for the next month is maybe somebody's dad will piss off Gary Patterson.
God, that Big 12 media days. I mean, we don't care, but like having OU and OSU on the same day is pretty stupid.
Do you think there's a
sucks
chance
for
3 years from now that Gary Patterson will dig up whatever it was that got Spencer Rattler suspended and bring it up in like a pregame interview?
Ooh.
Hopefully.
I don't know that he can really throw any stones with the Trevon Boykin stuff that he's gone
true.
through.
Well, Trevon Boykin, and who was the other quarterback?
Turpin.
That was like a
Okay.
Turpin,
I was
too,
going to say
yeah.
Turpin.
Yeah,
I mean,
Turpin
well,
did just as
no,
I mean, it
the-
was domestic stuff, right? With Turpin,
I'm trying to
Yeah, I
think
think
of that
he
other
dragged his
quarterback.
girlfriend through a
Yeah,
parking lot or
the,
something.
the big, tall, white kid. He played with Kenny Vaccaro at Brownwood. He came to OU's camp one year. I watched him. He's a good player.
oh, the quarterback, the cocaine guy.
yes,
yeah,
Casey Paha.
yeah, Paul Hall,
Oh, yeah.
Pachal.
Neck tattoo guy.
I think
Oh,
his
I think he
Yeah,
has a
neck
neck
tattoo,
tattoo,
yeah.
doesn't he?
You're right.
Should have saw that coming.
And he played
when I met
baseball,
him in
too?
high school. I don't know.
Or was he-
at
was he-
TCU?
No,
Maybe
I don't.
he was.
I think he was just a football
distributing
player.
to the baseball team. I think was
That might have been. That might have been it, but that should have
That
been the
seems
least
like a
surprising
real
thing
issue
of all
on
time.
that
That
campus.
yeah, cocaine's being used in Fort Worth at a private school. Shocking.
You're just a. I mean, there was a generation that happened like where all that stuff filtered in that I missed.
Like cocaine on a college campus.
Yeah, that wasn't a big thing in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What was like binge drinking? Probably
Yes.
the biggest
Oh,
thing
yeah.
in the 90s.
Yeah. No, that was.
Just good old fashioned binge drinking.
I mean, there were fraternity deaths at OU. I mean, Boren shut people down because of binge drinking.
Believe me, I know.
Some of that is that's
Year
just
before I got to
Oklahoma
OU.
City, Kerry. You know,
Year before.
What'd you say, Josh?
I said some of that's North Oklahoma City. That's a North tradition that's pretty strong.
The cocaine.
Never. No, I don't
Yeah.
know about that. Never got to. Never even got to go to a hall party. I was basically denied a full college experience. What if I could I go back and sue David Boren for this? Could we drag his name through the mud even more?
I mean, the civil suits, I'm sure, are going to be flying. What's one
I'm
more?
sure. Can I just join in on somebody's? Just like a little. What is the like an addition to a lawsuit? I don't even know what that's
Class
called.
action.
Is that what it's called? Yeah. I want to make a
To be
class
f-
action.
To be fair, Eddie, you could probably just say it and people would report it, and then you don't actually have to hire a lawyer. And David Boren has enough on his plate right now that he's probably not going to get that litigious with you.
Yeah, right.
So, like, you can just have your moment in the sun of a really strange lawsuit.
I want my day in
you
court.
probably know some SAEs. Just call them. They'll help.
Oh, they got some good lawyers for sure.
I know some SAEs that would be happy to jump on.
Okay, there was a part 2 that I was going to ask you on Vandagriff, Josh, and that would be, okay, so he's done. Let's chart the travel that he's done over the last few years. Florida, Oklahoma. Had he been to Georgia before all that?
I want to say he went there, Bob, was that right at the end of the school year or something? Like, I want to say he's been there within the last month, but I
Yes.
don't know exactly when that was.
And then he headed to Alabama after that? Was that... Where did he go after OU? I thought he had another trip.
Well, he was at OU for 3 days.
Okay.
Because the family started looking at stuff for his sisters who are volleyball and softball players. So they did a whole grand tour
Oh, wow.
of Norman.
Are they volleyball players, though? Or is somebody taking a payout to get them into school?
I don't know of any Full House interaction, but I can check into that. So I did want to add that while my forecast on Brock Vandagriff has gotten people excited, Paul Strelo of our Clemson side has now jumped on board. So I'm wondering if he's hurt. And he and I have not had any
Jumped
discussions
on board
about
with
Brock.
Clemson or Oklahoma?
With Oklahoma.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, so
clearly
and
he's
that-
hearing
and
something
that
too.
was my question. If you were going to rank his top 6, which he has released, where does Oklahoma fit right now in your mind?
I don't think there's any question they're number one. I think it's funny because I got a question, and God, our people on the board are just going to react to this. I got a question from our national guys about a story they're working on, kind of leading into the 5-star about, is OU a real contender? Where do I kind of see them? And I was like, I think they're number one. I think they're as real as a contender as it gets right now. And, I think there's people that are still adjusting to this idea that Oklahoma could go into Georgia and land not just a guy, but I mean like a probable 5-star kind of guy. So I don't know that everybody kind of understands that what Lincoln Riley is as a recruiter, what obviously he's unparalleled right now in quarterback production. There's nobody doing what he's doing.
They did it with Hazelwood.
Yeah, I mean, if they did it back-to-back years
know.
with Hazelwood, can you imagine?
I know.
That's Georgia would think that Oklahoma is like some god of a program if they did that 2 years in a row.
Nah, they're paying.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
That's what Georgia would be thinking.
Well, that's the ultimate compliment. You want people to accuse you of paying players.
Would this
That
basically
means you're
be
getting the good ones.
Yeah.
would it be the transition from really good recruiting to, I guess the
Top 5
elite recruiting? Like, is this the jump that people have been wanting for? That would this be definitive proof, I guess, that they're actually making that when you throw in a Perrion Winfrey? And yeah, he's a JUCO kid. You got to at some point start breaking that barrier down, but you got to start somewhere, right?
You got to get in the top 10 when it's all said and done with 2020. And is that even possible, do you think?
I do.
Yeah,
I think you're going to see, I mean, obviously some of the guys that we know about that just haven't gone public yet, they're going to help the rankings. I still see guys like Ryan Watts and Dante Manning kind of continuing to climb the rankings. That'll help. They'll just keep picking up points as they go. And like I said, I mean, we still don't know what OU is going to do at quarterback. I mean, you've got to think if OU is going to take a quarterback, it's going to be a pretty good one. I mean, somebody that's not going to hurt rankings. It may not end up being Bryce Young, but I wouldn't rule that out either. So, I mean,
Let me ask you, Josh, just as far as if they were not to take a quarterback or if they were in a position not to take a quarterback, could you end up taking somebody that maybe plays quarterback in high school with the intention of just turning him into an athlete? Would that, I guess, would a situation, and this is going to be different because he's being recruited, he plays quarterback in high school, but like a Gentry Williams type situation, even though it's a different grade, could you talk yourself into taking a player that is more of an athlete but still could play quarterback in a pinch? Does that make sense what I'm getting at?
Yeah, it does. Bob or Carrie or Bob, can you confirm that Eddie was listening to me earlier? I think Eddie I think Eddie tuned me out.
I must have.
I can't confirm that I was listening to Eddie.
My bad. Is that literally what you said?
So, I said something like
Paul
Thompson.
Thompson.
I was like,
Oh,
you
okay.
recruit a guy that can play it a little bit.
Right.
You can give him a shot.
Okay.
And then, hey, you
My
can
bad.
help us better somewhere else.
This
Hey,
will
it's no big-
become a promo, though.
Nolan Arenado is trying to start a fucking fight with the Cubs and trying to watch it and
Eddie's not listening to me.
Podcast,
Carrie's not
just
listening to Eddie.
like snarky comments on Twitter. There's a lot going on.
Well,
over here.
I mean, in my defense,
Thank God we've got Bob.
In my defense, I've started following this account on Twitter called This Is Insider, and it's been retweeted by Food Insider, and they're showing video of a place that does all kinds of different types of dip cones, and I really got distracted.
I almost think it would have been better if you left it unsaid. Like, I feel like that's worse.
yeah, I'd probably
There's
delete
so
that.
many dipping options. It's in Quebec, Canada. Of course, the
Are you an
Canadians.
ice cream guy, Carrie?
I love dip cones.
Ah, see, Tiffany loves it. She's a dip cone aholic. But she just loves any ice cream. I'm not a big ice cream person. That's not my deal.
Like when DQ went out in Norman, it was devastating to me. But now it's back, and I haven't gotten a dip cone there since they've come back. So,
see, before I met her, I didn't even know what a dip cone was. So, whatever.
God, anyway. I mean, North Oklahoma City really is. I mean, you might as well just be like Paraguay. It's cocaine everywhere. You've never had dip cones.
It's not. Now, see, but Eddie's going to take offense that you would include anything south of what? Probably Expressway, Eddie, is North Oklahoma City?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
I've always assumed that was pretty much the dividing line.
Yeah. I'd even say maybe
and I won't lie,
north.
Once I
maybe
once
even
I
like
house,
maybe Hefner.
Yeah.
Everything
once
north
I bought
of
my
Hefner?
own house, I was not far from Expressway. I definitely
Sure.
moved north myself. So
Now I'm starting to wonder if Groovy's is the cocaine capital of Oklahoma.
Oh,
I would not doubt that. I have nothing to say nothing definitive to say on that, but I would not doubt that. Like if you told me that, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
I cannot confirm nor deny those reports.
Just knowing the people that have frequented that place, that would line up.
There was in my heyday, there was an older gentleman that was always there with about 3 buttons loose and a gold chain, and I mean,
the last time I was there
like
was a couple months ago, and he definitely was still there.
Yeah. It may not be the same dude, but it sure as shit looks like the same dude every time.
Sure.
That he's like a.
I think it is.
And he's always on the bar.
No, I think it's the same guy.
Okay, it may be.
Okay, so
hey guy,
we talked about OU's big defensive commitment. Really, Perrion Winfrey, really the guy that even though, as we said, Watts moved up to a 4-star, and OU obviously did a really good job evaluating. A lot of schools have come in on him since he committed to OU. But what's out there still that really would help OU pick up some momentum on the defensive side of the ball? I know Sam Spiegelman wrote an article today about the Rivals 5-star camp and mentioned the safety that's going to be there.
Yeah, we'll get a chance to see Bryson Washington. I obviously saw him at the Houston RCS, a guy that, and I even went back and saw him a little later at one of his practices at Houston C. King. Just a guy with a lot of size, a lot of range. I think is a pretty natural center fielder for Oklahoma. That's kind of where I see him playing. It's kind of a free. But I mean, like I said, he's 6'2", 6'3", 190 pounds. So if OU wants to bring him down the box, he'll be fine. He can do that too. I think, the thing that's interesting to me as I watch some of these defensive guys is just, it feels like, yeah, they do have a very clear idea of what they want to be. But okay, if we don't land this corner we want, okay, Ryan Watts is a corner. Well, if we don't land this safety we want, Ryan Watts is going to be a safety. They have some guys that give them some flexibility to say, okay, maybe, for example, they lost Antonio Doyle last week. Well, okay, maybe Brendan Walker now he's purely our Mike target, which is kind of been what they've been selling for a while. But I feel like if they'd have gotten Doyle, maybe they say, okay, we still like Brendan Walker. Maybe we can slide him to that rush position. He could play that for us. Or, there's just some variation in what they're willing to do defensively to kind of make sure they get the best guys that are the best athletes. So, yeah, Bryson Washington's a great example. I was kind of going over the list of what we're going to see in Atlanta, and it's not quite as deep as it was last year as far as, man, there's just a whole bunch of guys that we need to see, but it's a lot of premier guys like Bryson Washington. You're going to see, like we've already talked about, Brock Vandagriff a whole lot. Vandagriff, I don't know where that T came from. So there are just a lot of guys, like I said, that are going to be worth us watching. Good to see Cedric Van Pran again. Bijan Robinson, a guy that's kind of loosely been connected to OU for a while now. Donovan Jackson's the young offensive lineman. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys that we'll go over there. On the defensive side of the ball, though, Bryson's probably the main one that really is going to be a focus for us. There's a few other guys that we'll want to talk to. Justin Flo will be there. Keely Ringo will be there. We can kind of, and it may just be we talk to them and they say, yeah, we're not really talking to OU much. And we can kind of just close that book and start focusing on where OU really has a chance. But at least And the other guy I will say, and this went on longer than I intended, Josh Eaton, defensive back, another guy from Houston that I know OU has really liked for a while. There's been a lot of talk that Texas is way out in front for him, and I think that was the case. but he's talking about waiting until February. And it feels like one of those situations where it could work out pretty nicely for Oklahoma if Texas maybe gets Kyton Crawford or somebody else to take some of their spots away. Because with all the DBs they've signed the last couple of years, there's just no way they're going to take a huge class of them this year. So he could be a guy that maybe, I don't want to say falls into OU's lap, but could be a good situation.
You know, and it kind of takes me back to what Lincoln Riley talked about when we talked to him. They didn't do the Tulsa Caravan. We kind of had some media with him, and I'd asked him about, Bob even wrote about it, asked him about defensive recruiting. Basically said, look, we have to go out and prove ourselves. And like last year, we went out there. We saw Elias Ricks. We saw Justin Flo. We saw Keely Ringo. All these defensive guys. And yes, they were sort of excited about Oklahoma, but you look at everything that's gone on in the last 12 months, there's been no momentum, that's been able to be built on the defensive side of the ball. So this is probably, paying attention more to the 2021 guys defensively right now too. I mean, unless they're going to, I mean, it would take a remarkable, recruiting job to get some of those names reinterested in Oklahoma, I would think.
I guess the only name I'm wondering about, because I know he was invited, Jacoby Covington, has he backed out?
No, he's expected to be there. Also, Major Burns is going to be there, and we're just going to let Eddie do an interview with Major Burns, and we're going to talk about eyes, and we're going to talk about commitment and your word, and
he was with the Aggies first,
strong as oak, that kind of stuff. So we're going to go Jerry Maguire on it. No, Jacoby will be there. That's. I was kind of going through the list, and I was like, "There's somebody I'll miss," and he's obviously the one.
I'll do it if he brings me food from New Orleans and half of the suitcase LSU gave me.
And a letter from Jacob Phillips.
Yeah, and an apology letter.
Yeah.
I mean,
with his DNA so we can frame him.
The thing is, I don't know that you guys give enough credit to how much I think Jacob Phillips helped the Carrie Eddie bond. That trip, Eddie watching the World Series. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on.
Made for a viral video.
It did.
It did, and I would do it again, too, if I knew that a kid was
enjoy that kind of stuff.
Over OU. I mean, 20 minutes later, but
I don't enjoy getting f***ed over, but I mean, I enjoy. I mean, that's what you live for, man. I mean,
it was Oprah's high school. We were at Oprah's high school.
Oprah's high school was a cool old high school.
It was a really cool high school.
So I mean, we were
got
sitting there talking
bomb
to Baker
tacos
Mayfield.
with Woody as well.
Yeah, Woody, our guy Woody. But we're sitting there talking to Baker Mayfield, and then all of a sudden we're in the car driving 10 hours to Nashville. Would have been better if, our boy Jared wouldn't have been on tour at the time, but you can't have everything.
It was worth the trip.
Was he hanging out with Stan Kroenke?
That is still working on that. That was a good trip, though. I will say.
I let Jared know about the Kroenke fascination, and they also have. I don't know if it's someone that works for them that is. What's your soccer team? Arsenal. They're a huge Arsenal fan too, and they actually, after a concert, were riding in a car with Kroenke and didn't even know it, and Jared didn't tell them till the next day because he didn't want them freaking out, like with reasonable. Arsenal stuff. So
I want to make it clear to Jared that I would not freak out. I can handle that situation. Meeting the owner is. It's more of just a means to an end. Like, I'll get a cool seat somewhere in the stadium. I really think
blowing him off at the Houston Rodeo is going to cost you on this one.
Yeah, I don't know if I've told everybody this. My kids were really sick. Like, it was really dangerous. It was bad. Jared, we're really sorry. We just couldn't make it.
I don't believe any of this. This doesn't sound sincere at all.
Laney we were worried. We thought we were, it was got to go to the hospital. It was very scary, very touch and go.
I think he'd be willing. The thing about you is you're going to get hotboxed a lot more about recruiting than I do.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, dude, I can't go to a family function without talking OU sports for at least an hour and a half. And, Carrie, should we talk about you and my dad having a special experience recently?
Your dad won trivia on a radio show.
I think we did talk.
Week.
Did we not talk about that last week?
Did we not?
Did we?
I think we did.
Yeah.
I thought we
Sorry
did.
To bring up old shit. My bad.
You're like my mother, Josh. You just keep repeating the same story over and over.
Dude, yeah, that's like old age is going to be a real bitch for me. There's no question.
Your daughters are never going to call because they just don't want to hear the same stories.
They don't want to hear the same damn story about the time they fell down, the stairs right before the concert for Kings of Leon, and I had to save them.
Nicely played. Okay, so I would say one thing I wanted to mention, Eddie, was it was kind of funny going out there watching camp and watching Alex Grinch, because he just didn't really have anything to do. Like, there weren't any people that he was really schmoozing with.
Yeah, Roy Manning did most of the DB stuff.
And then Brian Odom was putting those guys through the paces because he just kind of wanted to evaluate a couple of guys out there, but it's not like any offers came flying out of that thing.
No.
But it was, I'm trying to figure out Alex Grinch. He's just, is he like a savant? Or is he just super intense?
I think a little bit of both.
Does he have social skills?
Because he did get after it at the one that Bob and I went to the week before. It was probably a little bit better group, but he was getting after
smaller
it.
Group.
He got knocked down during one of the drills.
He did get
you
knocked
told me
down.
about that. Yeah,
It was pretty funny. Mm-hmm. It was like a scary moment. You never know, like getting sandwiched between two guys is just kind of weird.
And that is
out of context.
How it's because the offensive kids that showed up for the first camp were not the elite ones. So they're crossing into each other.
Yeah.
They're going into territory they're not supposed to be running their routes in. And, Grinch took a tumble.
I will say this. Raleek Brown was elite.
Yes.
He was fantastic.
That kid's really good. I mean, you just don't see a kid move that fast very often.
And he was dusting people. And it was kind of funny because there was one kid's dad. He was getting in the middle of it, who was a defensive back. And what was that? Who was that kid? Was it Woods? Was that his last name? Avion or something like that?
I couldn't tell you.
He's some kid from Dallas or Texas. And he kept saying, nobody can guard him. Put my son on him. Put my son on him. And so his son had already been burnt like four or five times.
Which is
him.
always a telltale sign that the kid probably sucks.
So his kid, like after he'd been burnt 4 or 5 times, literally lines up 20 yards off the line of scrimmage against Raleek Brown. And all Raleek Brown does is just run a slant and just catches it over the middle. He wasn't anywhere close to him. So he was just destroying people.
Yeah, and that's not the problem. But when you watch Brown, that kind of ends the argument of taking a flyer on kids that Lincoln Riley doesn't believe are elite offensively.
Yeah.
These are the guys they can recruit on the reg. They can get them every single time.
You got a kid to fly out it's not even a sophomore. I mean,
Exactly.
getting ready to be a sophomore. Fly out to Norman to come to his camp.
He was there Friday. He went through the photo edits and the visit, and I thought that was it. And then when it became clear midway through the camp Saturday, it's like, oh, he stayed? Oh, he's going to be the best kid there. And he's going to show you what
he was
elite
by far the best kid
looks
there,
like. That's what elite looks like. When you try to say heart and hustle, that's great and all, but that's what elite looks like.
Yeah, he was really, really good.
You know, I'm one of those guys, and
that's
you
loosely
guys have all seen me
translated to
rant.
not white. by the way.
Well, I mean, we saw some white tight ends that we liked a little
No,
bit.
there were some big-bodied kids. There were some kids that Beamer was working with closely, too.
And you saw a white elite with Brock Vandagriff.
Well, that doesn't count. He's a quarterback.
And a redhead.
Strawberry blonde.
Strawberry blonde.
Strawberry blonde.
Strawberry
But that's still
blonde.
a redhead. It's just a different type of redhead. He still burns just as easily as other
We had a pretty good
gingers.
list going this morning. The most talented gingers in Oklahoma athletics history.
Imagine
anybody wanted to throw any names
in
out there.
OU history.
Yeah, it's just OU. Blake Griffin.
Blake Griffin had to be first.
Ryan Fisher. Kobe Tillman's very strong redheaded.
Yeah.
Right now.
Viking.
Current.
Nick Thompson. You remember him? Basketball player?
I don't. That one.
Oh, he was so bad. He was worse than Matt Freeman. Such a bad basketball player. There was a couple more. Somebody mentioned Brian Shackelford. Was he a redhead?
Didn't he just get the McAllister job?
He did.
Yep.
They need to, I hope McAllister schedules more. I'll go cover that one. Sonny Galloway versus Brian Shackelford. It'd be fun.
Maybe we can get what was Bill's name? The third base coach that quit.
Oh,
Mosiello.
Yeah.
Maybe we get Bill Mosiello to bridge the gap and
Mosiotti or Mosiello, something like that.
Mosiello.
Was it Mosiello?
Uh-huh.
I think that was even before my time.
If we could get him to coach a high school team in Oklahoma,
he was crazy,
get him to
right?
Westmore.
Didn't he walk
and
back?
Sonny might come to blows.
He walked back on the highway or something from
somewhere.
Baylor. From Baylor.
He quit in the middle of the road trip and just walked.
Oh, man, that's so good.
I think he's at TCU, is he not?
I want to say maybe he is working
he's
for
like one of their best. He's one of the best assistants in the country considered.
I'll be damned. Yeah, sure enough, associate head coach, TCU.
So yeah, he's rebounded nicely. Yeah. Anyway,
so good.
Okay, so you did before the last pod we were doing. You were getting ready to go meet Lon Kruger to talk about his new assistants. Anything, kind of coming out the last week with the hires and recruiting and anything along those lines?
Well, you're just starting to see those kids slowly get into Norman. Harmon, of course, is leading the charge, but a lot of the high school prospects are making it or are being cleared by compliance to be 100% to start doing their workouts. Junior college kids like Corbin Merritt, Alondis Williams, it'll take a little bit longer, but the great news, and this goes with football too, is that everyone is enrolled. They're in the database. There's no trying to fish for them to see.
We have to name shame Stacey
on.
Wilkins, by the way.
Right. Taz Terrell was his name in the search.
His name is Taz, and he doesn't go by that. That is ridiculous.
Now, that doesn't mean, because Jalen Robinson was J Flash last year. So I don't know if when
What's going on over there at admissions?
J Flash?
Tremonder Moore was T-Mo. So it was like I don't know if those kids were allowed to just kind of doctor what their name was or what. But Moore and Robinson both aren't with the team. So maybe you don't need to be changing your name.
Yeah. Not a good if that's a pattern, we might have found out washout possibilities.
Changing your name in the academic database?
Yeah, giving incorrect information for your name.
I can see that.
Being too into your feelings
I think I'd agree
on Twitter
with that.
is
I think
another
I'd agree.
one.
Because those sound like nicknames, and they're putting them down as their official names.
Taz Terrell Wilkins. Gonna have to ask him about that one in 3 years.
It's gonna be
talk
a
to
while.
him. I'll talk to you in 2022, sir.
Maybe they'll make the playoff again, and they'll all be available.
But basically, schedule coming up, we've got June 25th, 26th, I believe, is the day on the field for 5-star in Atlanta. We'll have media day on the 25th, so that we'll get to talk to all the players. We'll see where Brock Vandagriff is by the time we get to Atlanta. And then Big 12 Media Day is coming up July 15th and 16th. I think Oklahoma goes on the 15th. And so I know somebody on the board was asking, when does fall camp start? It'll start that first week of August. So the first game is the 31st this year, right?
Correct.
First.
It's the first. Because it's
moved
Sunday.
first, right?
It moved
But
to
because
Sunday.
of that, because of the first, I could see it starting maybe at the end of July, or you have it usually kicks off with Fan Appreciation Day, and that's usually August 2nd or somewhere around there.
Last year, if you remember, our media day with OU
way early.
Was the week of Big 12 Media Days, the end of that week. They hadn't even practiced yet, and we were just...
Oh, yeah, it was on a Saturday, wasn't it?
It was on a Sunday.
Sunday.
It was was it the British Open? Was it the Open?
Yes.
Yes,
it was.
It was because of the barbecue, wasn't it? Because they had the barbecue
Maybe so.
that weekend?
Maybe so. It was.
So they wanted to have
it was on Sunday at the British Open, though.
Sunday, at noon.
Right during the middle of it.
And we just spent 2 hours talking with Lincoln on Monday. We had nothing to ask Lincoln.
Yeah.
And you had nothing to really ask the players because it was all summer conditioning. There's no tangible things to ask them about on the field. I don't know if we'll get that situation again, but that's what it was.
I don't know. Lincoln's been really good with media policies. I would have to think that will continue this fall. So,
and then sandwiched in between there, I know Josh has signed up. Is the opening the last weekend in June or first weekend July?
Yeah, it's the 28th through the first or the second or something.
It's again where it's back to back with rivals. They just like last year.
Yep.
That becomes a grind on those kids.
And that'll be, Bob, what about the grind on me, Bob? I mean, I'm out there shooting a camera, Bob. My pointer finger is going to be exhausted, bro.
You need to come to my. You need to come to my
it
summer
should-
conditioning camera camp.
I would
Eddie,
love to know what that's
that
like.
camp every year. Eddie, like, is
This
it
year-
just training how to handle
What?
the camera while hungover? I mean, is it just the
We
camera
don't-
while hungover? Is that all you're doing?
I mean, you.
Well, right now it's
what
just
happens
standing
is-
upright. Bob saw I took a fall last week
It was bad.
with the camera in my hand.
He saved the camera.
You should have seen the move that I
The
made.
move that he saved the camera was very impressive.
I basically.
I'm proud of you.
Because he destroyed
Saved-
his knee. He destroyed his leg to save that camera.
I'm podcasting injured right now.
Are you? I can see like you have a camera camp and you don't take everyone out and get them hammered the night before, but you just put them through like a dehydration process before you go out and shoot like in 100-degree temperature. See if
You have to
if it
drink.
survive.
You have to drink a bottle of tequila to even get in a sauna, and that is supposed
In
to.
a sauna.
Yeah, that's supposed to. That's supposed to get you ready. That's like my makeshift Camelback Fiesta Bowl 2012
Oh
experience.
my God. Eddie's first trip to the hospitality room.
Hey, Eddie, on this note of you dealing with some heat, I won't be able to make it to the Texas State 7-on-7 championships. If you'd like to go, though, buddy, I can absolutely put that together for you. It's usually about 127 degrees. It never rains. There's not a cloud in the sky in all of College Station, all the years I've covered it. It's one of the more physically miserable experiences of my life. And, you know, like
Really
I said, if
selling
you
it.
want to go, I can't make it. So you do. Yeah. No, I really wanted to make sure that you were, I didn't want you to go in and be like, Josh really caught me off guard with this. I mean, if you are training for anything, you're training for that. Like it's the hottest I've ever been at covering an event. And it's every year. It's the same temperature. It's like the same day every year.
I don't know what's worse, covering an event where it's 120 or just having to be around Taylor Ham in 70-degree weather. I'd probably go with 120.
Taylor Hammond. Yeah, I'd take the 120. You know, because again, just running into him, there's always the thought. I can see the image on the local news in the back of my head, like local rivals reporter attacks. You know, like I don't need that in my life. I don't want that. So, yeah. There's. Let's be fair. There's never a good time to meet Taylor Ham.
That's probably pretty well said. We'll leave it at that.
Like you're never like, well, this would be the perfect moment. It's kind of like your car dying or running out of gas, or you lock yourself out of your house. It's always a shitty time.
You're the one building the bonfire, right?
All right.
Little ham joke, little A&M jab, all rolled into one.
Do they do that again, don't they?
I actually think that they started it back up maybe last year or 2 years ago.
They're like more control.
What
Yeah,
do they
I think
do
it's
it
like.
for?
Well, they used to do it
was
before
Texas.
Yeah, they don't play
I don't.
Texas.
That's a good question. I don't know when they do it.
LSU now they're quote unquote big game.
I have a couple A&M buddies. I'll text them and see what they say.
Do you know the funny thing I didn't realize? One of my buddies down here in Houston, he's a big A&M fan. His wife for Father's Day has gotten him some season tickets, and we were talking the other day. Did you
don't have
know
a
who
wait
their
list?
big? Because no, they do not. You know how the SEC set up like rivalry games so that Tennessee and Alabama could play each other every year and that kind of stuff. Do you know who A&M's is? If you had to guess from the SEC East who their rival that's a fixture on their schedule
Is it
every year.
Vanderbilt
Arkansas,
or
isn't
something?
it?
Missouri.
South Carolina?
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, I do remember.
I said
that
Arkansas.
now.
They're in the East, aren't they? I mean, they're in the West.
Yeah, they're in the West.
I
yeah.
don't know. I don't care.
But what? Like that's the most random shit ever. Like,
Yeah, but
really?
it's so perfect.
I guess it's better than
Is it
Vanderbilt.
not? Is it not perfect?
What's scary is that I think A&M fans can't see what that says.
True.
Oh no, I'm sure that there's plenty of them that are just like, oh, this is a better rivalry than Texas ever was. They used to be referred to as pot bangers, and I love that. I think that's the perfect way to describe.
They were the pot bangers,
Yeah.
and Texas is the tea sippers.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
Like back in the days of
Yeah.
the old message board when it was just like Horn fans,
Southwest
and
Conference.
Texags. Yeah, Texas fans called them pop bangers, and they called Texas fans T-sips.
That's pretty good. It's pretty perfect.
You know what
To
phrase?
all the OU fans and OSU fans listening, step your game up. You guys need to be given like Aggies or Gooners. Like, stop. None of that's funny. Come up with something good, and let's go forward.
I had something I was going to talk about, and then a man is showing his penis on television. I don't know what's happening. I think he put bees down there.
I don't get this channel, Carrie. What is this?
This is ESPN.
Highly questionable with
Dan
Levitard.
Levitard show.
Sure about that?
Yeah, they don't
Something's
usually
always
show
better than
penises. Yeah. It had a mark thing in front of it. Oh, there was something I was going to say. I have no idea what it was. We might as well just end
I
this
thought
damn
you were
thing.
referring to the penis.
No. I'm shook.
Had a mark on it.
Josh, you strike me as somebody that was upset that the U.S. women's team scored too many goals yesterday.
Shit, no. Eddie, I was walking out the door with the girls this morning when you tweeted out that Canadian video where
it's
they're
hilarious.
like, oh, as Canadians, we would never do this. Are you shitting me? Did you see Toronto 2 nights ago? Like, knock that noise off.
Like
Those
when
broads.
you booed Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do
You-
love-
you
Cheer- no, they
applauded
cheered him.
that
No,
guy.
cheered him. Kevin Durant would get it. I do love that someone put together that same bar video, and the Canadians thought it was real. And they were trying to disprove it.
Oh, it's
There's sunlight. There's sunlight.
Yeah.
No way.
They're ashtrays. We don't have ashtrays.
Did you like?
internet must not get up there very often.
And the exit sign. They knew the exit sign color wasn't right. I was like, what the hell are you like? I don't know what an exit sign in my local restaurant looks like. That's amazing.
I think my favorite one was the aria, which Eddie probably didn't understand at all. When she killed the Night King.
Oh, I don't even.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
What? Oh, I mean the internet, the video. Where
Yeah.
they always. Well, I think the first way it started was the slide in by
Oh yeah, Chris Collinsworth.
Chris Collinsworth slide in. I think that's where that started.
I see what you're saying. I thought you meant there was like a meme or something out there
I
about
just
Kevin
love it when
Durant
they
being
put up-
killed.
No, I just love when they put up a new video and
Yeah.
they go nuts because I think that was a World Soccer match, is what that originally was.
Yeah, I believe
World
so.
Cup match.
I think it was from England in the World Cup last summer.
So yeah, the Kevin Durant.
Eddie,
one was
you
great.
are you professionally enjoy kind of pissing people off a little bit or pushing buttons anyway. Where do you come out on Kevin Durant and the cheering for him getting hurt?
I think it's a natural reaction.
I feel like you don't
It's a
care.
natural
I
reaction.
think it's a natural reaction to anybody that wanted to see their team win.
Yes.
I don't think it was.
It's not malicious.
Yeah, I don't think it was we're happy that he's hurt.
It's like, we're happy we're going to win the championship now.
I also think it's funny that nationally and even locally, because of the Kevin Durant factor here, that like before you say anything about Kevin Durant these days, you have to say, well,
Yes.
I never wanted to see this happen to somebody, but it's like, I mean, it sucks. It's a bad injury.
You're going to miss all
At least he wasn't playing for the Thunder.
But
That's
to say
kinda how I
that,
look at it.
to say I was immediately praying that he was okay, that'd be a lie.
Dude, I thought when Myers started that press conference, I'm like, is he a horse? Did they just put him down in the back? Like, what the f*** just happened?
And
Like,
that- That's
he
the
was
other
so
thing.
shook up.
That's the other thing. People are 48 hours later. People are acting like Kevin Durant is the first player to ever play not 100%.
Yeah.
Like what a hero to the system this man is.
The thing about it is, though, I mean, everybody could kind of see that coming. It's like that type of injury, the way it happened the first time, everybody could kind of see. Like, I'm old now. Like, I'll wake up some mornings. I mean, was it Eric Bailey, the Tulsa World? He's had 2 Achilles
Yeah,
torn on him.
I think
Like,
he's torn both of his.
I think a lot. I don't know, Josh, if you ever done this, but like I can tell times when my Achilles is tight. Like, and I'm like, oh, I better not do anything too crazy, or I'm gonna tear my Achilles. Like, I want to be in my 40s with a cast on, riding a scooter. But like,
know that I've ever
like,
felt that one.
like I feel like you could see that coming. Like, they needed to take more time and be sure, or else that was good. I wasn't
or
surprised when it happened.
the way that they used them. since they said, all right, just go do what you usually do.
Yeah.
There's no minute restrictions, no like sort of ease him into it, play against the second team. So I was like, all right.
Well, and this was the point, too. It was the first time that he'd ever done his pregame warm-up before that game. He'd never done it before. And we've seen it plenty in Oklahoma City with Paul George or Russell Westbrook. When they get hurt, they'll go through like a week of doing their pregame warm-ups before they play. That's part of their rehab. That's part of their process.
You get the juices flowing. I mean, I'm sure you're not feeling much at the beginning.
But to have it happen only one time just shows you how rushed he was to get back.
I think he was rushed, and I think there's also part of it that there's just no plan. It happens. It sucks that it happened to probably one of the best players in the NBA, but people get hurt. That sucks.
During the pod, I guess they said he went under successful surgery.
Yeah.
He should still miss all next season, right?
I always hate that, too. The Thunder
Talk to
do the
some
same
doctors in
thing.
New York and get my money back then.
Like, he underwent successful surgery. You can't
You don't
claim
know.
success
You
yet.
don't know yet.
Until he comes back and looks like the same guy, you can't claim that it was
Yeah, that's like a
successful
coach
surgery.
saying he brought in a good recruiting class on National Signing
Yeah,
Day.
exactly.
We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
See how many of them quit, leave, never start, or busts.
Let's see how the power of prayer works.
God, don't. All right, I think we need to get out of here. Eddie's going to go attack Facebook OU groups in his spare time.
Oh, hey,
Only if you make
Real quick.
ugly things on the internet and put them out there as good.
I know last week a bunch of people had questions about Brian Darby. I'm going to go see him this week. So we'll have video, we'll have pictures. Going to go watch him and some 7-on stuff. So we'll get a better feel for him. So, everybody out there that, like I said, just doesn't know much about him yet can kind of understand what OU was looking at when they took him.
All right, good stuff. Thank you to Josh. Thanks, Eddie. Thanks, Bob. And we'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Go check out the site. Lots of great news out there, great stories. There's big news coming. Josh has hinted at it. I know the article we've got up on the site now is Sam Spiegelman talking about what a huge month this could be for OU, especially at the 5-Star Challenge coming up. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming up in recruiting for Oklahoma that you're going to want to be a part of. So make sure you check out Soonerscoop.com, subscribe. That helps support this podcast as well if you enjoy the podcast. And also, I know Josh is very happy. The ratings on iTunes back up to a 5.0. So everyone has done a great job with your reviews and your ratings. So we appreciate that. And feel free to go do that as well. Like, subscribe, rate, review. We're always happy when you guys do that. So thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week right here on the Unofficial 40 on Soonerscoop.com.